I keep hearing people talking about worship as a genre. It's like, oh, what's your favorite style of music? And people are like, oh, I love worship music. Or, what do you like to listen to on the radio? Oh, worship music. And it's so interesting to me when I hear people talking about worship as a genre, because worship is so much more than a style of music. But I think as people, we've just kind of like put worship into this little box that says it's the type of music that's about God that really makes us feel good. And maybe if you're a little charismatic, it's the one that makes you lift your hands high to the heavens when you're praising God. And there's a problem with that, because worship isn't a genre, and worship isn't just a style of music. But when we talk about worship as a genre or a style of music, it's taking something so deep and something so awesome and something that's life-changing, and again, narrowing it down to just a style of music. Now, I'm going to tell you what, there are some songs that are beautifully written, and they are songs that are about God, and they're about his awesomeness and his glory. And those songs can inspire you to live a life of worship, but the song in and of itself is not just, again, a style of genre of music that's worship. So I want to talk to you a little bit about worship, because when we hear about worship, one thing that I'm reminded of is a scripture in the Bible where it talks that David was a true worshiper. And I love this because it says that David was a true worshiper. But there's another scripture in the Bible in Acts 13 that it says, and when he had removed him, he raised up for them David as king, to whom also he gave a testimony and said, I have found David the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. And not only a man after my own heart, but then it goes on to say, who will do all my will. We have to think of worship as a lifestyle. We have to think of worship as a way of living. We have to think of worship as a heart change that happens inside of us that says, I want a heart that says, I am someone who's made in the image and likeness of God. I'm someone who God has called to grow into maturity and become more and more like him every single day. But what happens is when we think of these beautiful songs as worship, we almost feel like our worship tank is getting full as we listen to these beautiful Christian songs. And again, these beautiful Christian songs can add some value to our life. I know a lot of times when I'm in my own area of time of worship or my secret place, or when I'm really praying on my own, I love to listen to beautiful, slow, feeling compelling songs that can kind of add to that moment, but it's definitely not the moment. And that's the biggest thing, is not allowing this style of music to really take that place of a life that's fully surrendered to God. Saying, well, as long as I listen to these beautiful songs on K-Love, or as long as I have these songs and, do the K-Love challenge, those are great things and they can positively influence your life, but it cannot truly take the place of worship in your life. Because worship is when we come to this place that says, Ashley, have a heart after God's own heart, and I am willing to do God's will every single day of my life. And that goes to show us that worship really is a sacrifice. Worship is something that is so complex. Worship isn't something that we can just attain instantly, but it's this lifelong relationship with God that we live with him and walk in with him as we grow and mature in that relationship with God. So I want you just remember this scripture in Acts 13. Again, it's Acts 13:22, that we have to understand that as we serve God, we have to be that true worshiper, to really have a heart after God's own heart, and really be someone who's willing to do the will of God in their life every single day, no matter the cost, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, no matter how off the timing may feel to you. You have to be willing to lay down your life and say, I want to become like God. I want to take up my cross daily. I want to become more like him so that I can live a true life of worship, a life of sacrifice, a life that says, God, I want a heart that's after you. So I just encourage you, the next time you hear someone talk about worship as a genre, I'm not encouraging you to go out and have an argument about it, but just remind yourself when you're listening to those beautiful songs, this should inspire something in me to have a heart change to God, that I can do his will every day of my life.